Maya Gavana Milan. So in this video I have an exciting book review to do. I have this book called The Elves from Ancient Times to Our Days by Nikolay Lyapanenko. This book is incredible, and this was written by actually a 14-year-old boy who's turning 15, and I met him in my Facebook group, the Elven Light Path. And he actually has ties with the Silver Elves. So he, together with them, has written an amazing book. And this book is all about the history of the elves from ancient times all the way until modern times of, the Elven Awakening that is happening today in today's world. This book is wonderful because it does all the research for you. He put a lot of time into discovering all, the different legends and tales and myths that are surrounding elves, all the way from the earliest times in the Celtic legends. And he also has done some research in talking about the elves from around the world and the way different cultures have spoken about elemental spirits. So it's just incredible. If you're looking to understand the history of the elves, this is an amazing book. And then it goes into the modern times, which is really helpful for those that are feeling very elven-like in today's world. And they're really drawn to the elven path and they don't quite understand. This really explains everything for you. It is just incredible. So yes, Nikolay is definitely an elven one who is awakening, and he's trying to help others feel more comfortable in their skin of who they are, because awakening into your elven self it can be a little, not frightening, but strange, and it can make you feel very different and kind of isolated and alone in the world. And so this is really incredible to give people a sense that they belong to something that is greater than themselves, that the elves have been around for a very long time. And there's some really amazing theories put forth here, all about Lemuria and Atlantis and where the elves have gone after they have lived with the humans for a while, and that's why legends and myths are written about them. It's just incredible, and I really love that this is kind of an all-encompassing approach to the elven history. It gives a lot of knowledge about the different types of theories about elves and the different ways that different cultures and different people have always thought about the elves. It definitely talks about the starry elves, the ones from possibly other planets. It talks about the ones that have lived on our Earth, the ones that possibly live still on Earth in other dimensions that we can't see. I mean, it really expresses the whole array of elven wisdom. Now, what I personally really love is in the back it gets very, very detailed into the different ways that modern elves are coming back into the world. So I will read you some of those ideas, but first I want to read you the very beginning here. I loved this, and I thought this was really great. And this is kind of why I also was called to make my channel and to create that elven group, is to kind of gather elves together. So here he writes this: "It's time to raise the veil and show that the elves of the past are not gone, and that we have not left the world. It is time to show that we continue to live now in our modern world, fully assimilated with people, and we are waiting for the day when humans will be free to manifest themselves, and we can then remove an invisible cover and loudly say, 'Here we are.' Each group of people, each race on this planet, in our thinking, have a purpose, a mission, a role on this earth. If the elves had to keep the integrity and harmony in this world, people were initially reformers, innovators, and inventors. Apparently, in the times of the ancient earth, it was necessary for both of these races to be present. Over time, with the arrival of people and the transformation of the world, The word elves was unfortunately related to the archive of myth and became only a legend to most people. As a result, we could come to the conclusion that the earth is currently without guardians and that it will have an ecological disaster. But it so happens that the universe, or higher mind, has conceived once again to resurrect an ancient race of elves or guardians, the remains of which to this day are in our world. We elves have begun to wake up, and this phenomena of elven consciousness is massive and happening all around the world. I mean, absolutely. In my very first video in my channel, I talk about how people are being drawn to the elven path. You know, they were kind of maybe called by the Lord of the Rings and by the legends and the myths, but they might have always loved the earth and have always wanted to heal the earth in some kind of way. And this really goes through the whole idea. I want to read this Irish legend. Now, this is really meaningful to me because I actually my father's side has Celtic roots. According to our last name, it has a meaning of little cloak, so a meaning of Druid priesthood. And this is really amazing here. For a long time, elves stayed unnoticed in the shadows, but now has come the time for changes. An old Irish legend says that with the advent of human civilization, Tautha de Danann, the descendants of the modern elves, many years ago took on a spell of invisibility from humans. People thought they had disappeared, but in fact, the story goes that the elves never ceased their existence, but simply disappeared from human eyes. According to legend, one day the time will come when the spell of invisibility will be dispelled, and then the elves will be able to return to this world again and completely change the whole system. See, dear reader, that time has already come. And yes, indeed, I mean, if that was a legend of the past that the elves would return again one day, well, here they are. Something that I think that is incredible, and I think Nikolay and we really are cut from the same cloth and have that elven type of soul. He talked about something called the Elven Awakening, and it's something that I talked about before, and I always felt that was happening to me. And you know, in my group, we kind of all talk about it, like how did we kind of awaken to our elven soul? Like how did we know that we were elves in soul? And this is where he says that the Elven Awakening is truly this time and moment in your life in which you realize that you're not quite just human, that there is an ancient part of your soul that is really connected to the earth, and you're connected to the elven people and to the elves and their ways and the way that they connect to nature, and the way that they have a relationship with other humans. You yourself may feel that way in your own life. So he talks about the Elven Awakening, which is really helpful for those that are kind of trying to understand themselves, awakening into their elven self. And then also talks about the modern definition of elves, and because elves had kind of taken on a different way of being in the ancient times. They were known as, you know, the beautiful giants or the beautiful diminutive people. There's so many different legends and stories surrounding the elves. And today, elves kind of take on a different type of path and a different type of persona. But there are many different ways that you can actually know if you are elven-like. So the modern elves, there's 5 different ways that he actually talks about how somebody can be typed as an elf. So number 1, people with a strongly pronounced elven psychotype, spiritual component of an elf. And each of these categories he goes into more in depth, and I won't give them away because I want you to buy this book. So the psychotype of an elf is just how a person is mentally and how they connect to the elves spiritually and what is their kind of their psychology. Number 2, people with elven blood who consider themselves a remote descendants of the ancient elves and take as the basis of their identification a material, physical component of an elf. So these are people that may have a little bit point to their ear rather than the total roundness of the human ear. These are the people that may take on the particular elven roots of the people of the Irish and the Celtics and the Scottish and the Dutch, like those types of bloodlines of the elves. They can be related to the ancient elves of the past that disappeared. It's hard to tell what you are, but there is kind of certain ways that you can tell if you are from a bloodline. There's also a Russian type of elven bloodline too that he goes into because he himself is from Russia and Russian. And this is incredible because it gives you a lot of indication if you are an elf, if you do come from particular bloodlines. And then number 3, the third group is people who believe that in a previous life they were elven, and that thinking often is accompanied by the appropriate memories. So then people who actually have memories or feel like in their distant past they were an elf. He goes into more of that. And then 4, people who believe that they were born incarnated with elven spirit, or that the elven spirit has possessed their bodies. So they feel that they have an elven soul or elven spirit, and it has possessed their bodies. They go into a little bit more in the idea that, it could be a walk-in, it could be someone that just came from an elven soul type and came into the world as a human, but they also possess the elven soul. There's lots of different ways that you can categorize that. And then number 5 is people claiming to possess extraordinary abilities often associated with the elves. So all the different types of abilities that are associated with the elves, things that have to do with nature wisdom, things that have to do with animal, being intuitive with animals, communicating with animals, just being very knowledgeable about nature and having this wisdom within them that not necessarily humans have. This is another way that you can decide if you have an elven-like psychotype and an elven-like, if you are a modern elf. So it's just incredible. And there are, how many pages here? Yes. 257. So it's a lot of research and passion and time and effort that went into this. I absolutely love that he included the spiritual retreats, the different festivals for elves, the ones that are right now in our modern times that people who feel very elven-like, they can take part in. He talks about the Silver Elves, which were kind of the first known elves that kind of came out with letters and with books about the Elven way and the Elven path, and they started in the 70s, and he actually connected with them, and so he is associated with them, and that's how I know him, because the Silver Elves actually became members of my group because they heard me making this group, and then they ended up meeting me in the Facebook group, and then this boy knows it. So we all know each other. Basically, all elves are connected together, and they do find each other eventually. It's just an incredible book, and I love that he actually put me in the gratitude at the very end. It was really wonderful. And I really appreciate that. He talked about how I'm sharing elven wisdom and philosophy on the internet and becoming a voice for the modern elves. So, very exciting book. Indeed, I love it. I will cherish it. I think every single person that resonates with being elven-like, who feels like they are an elf, who lives like an elf, who loves my channel, who loves the Lord of the Rings, anybody who has any kind of resonance with the elves definitely should get this book. This book is available, and it is on, I believe it's on Amazon. I bought it off of a different website, but you can find it. The Elves from Ancient Times to Our Days. I'm going to put it in the link so you can find it and get it as soon as you can, shipped to you, because it is just incredible. This young boy is so brilliant, and he has written a couple books in Russia. And he has an amazing personal story. He has overcome his chronic illnesses that he has, and he feels that he has been brought back in order to have this mission of spreading the awareness of the elves. And I absolutely believe it. After you read this book, you know that this little boy has this particular mission in order to awaken other elves. And I'm so glad that I can be part of this movement and help humans establish their reconnection with nature. And I have so many more plans for this channel to really start to really get more in depth with the wisdom behind nature. So I'm very excited for this book to be out here. It's a book that I think the world truly needed, and here it is. So I highly recommend it. Go to my link on the bottom and you can find it there. So, Hen and Lay for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.